Welcome to Iron Galaxy Studios' Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. Iron Galaxy is known for breathing life into classic games with AAA ports and remasters. We're always willing to help other teams with co-dev and support work, and of course, we make our own creative projects too. Now let's meet Iron Galaxy's amazing team members from our Chicago studio, the Orlando studio, and our teams worldwide. Each pair interviewed each other about what it means to be Latinx in the gaming space. First up, it's Melissa vs. Lupe.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm a producer here at Iron Galaxy, and I've been in the industry for coming up on 7 years.
And I'm Lupe Nunez, the head of IT at Iron Galaxy Studios, and I've been the head of IT on different teams for 14 years.
What does your day-to-day look like?
Well, in IT, my day could change, from day to day, week to week. But typically, my days are coming in, meeting with my team, catching up with everyone to see where everyone's at, following up on open requests and tickets, meeting with different people in different places in the company to map out different initiatives, and follow up on shared tasks. There's a lot of one-on-ones, a lot of following up on career development and my employees' progress on different fronts. But most of all, I'm really just working with people at every corner of the business to make sure that our games stay on track and that everyone has what they need. That's the main focus of every day for me. So, Melissa, what does your day-to-day look like?
It looks a lot like your day-to-day, Lupe. Yeah, I also get in and meet with my teams, and it's a lot of like internal interfacing to understand that everyone's clear on goals, to make sure that no one is blocked to do, what they need to do during the day, and then having those same conversations with like our external partners, our outsourcing partners, and it's like 4 to 6 hours of meetings per day and a little bit of hands-on keyboard work, but it's a lot of focusing on people, projects, and processes specifically in that order, with people first always.
Yeah, it's very similar in some ways. We're always reaching out and people checking on you, you're checking on them, and working towards game goals all the time. So yeah, it's very similar. Okay, so Melissa, how does your heritage affect your role in games?
I think this is such a big question. I think it's one of those things that you can't separate from like who you are as a person. Making people make games first and foremost, right? And so the person that I am is someone with of Mexican descent, and that is crucial to how I make games, because my lived experiences inform the things that I want to see in games. I want to see Hispanic and Latinidad cultures authentically represented, and stories told about people's personal experiences instead of things that are attempted to be homogenized and just kind of summarized for the sake of the whole. Games just have such a good potential, to represent people's stories in the way that you've talked about being a storyteller. And I think that our individual stories are just a really good catalyst for making and seeing things in games. How about you, Lupe? How does your heritage affect your role in games?
It's something that I think about regularly. And I think as Latinos in America, we already have our own set of challenges and weight that we carry. And I try not to overburden myself with some of that. However, I can't not bring myself to think about the people before me. So I think about my great grandfather, my grandfather, my dad, my uncles. These are all people that I've met and I've seen and I've heard their stories of what they've built in order for me to be able to be in the position that I'm in today. And I don't lose sight that people in our industry and a lot of industries, when you look at the breakout of who's in management, like, management fields, who's in art fields, there's not, a lot of Latino representation. We're least represented in those types of jobs. So when I look at how fortunate I am to be in the position that I'm in, it's hard for me to separate, how I got here and who paved the road for me to get here. And then I find myself thinking I have to make the most of every day, of every bit of work that I put in, every bit of time that I spend away from my family, because I think that there's more meaning to it. So it's hard to separate those two things. And as I approach my day in and day out, I think about the people who have put the effort in for me to be here and the work that I'm doing to pave the road for others. And it's something that I carry with me every day. I take it very seriously. So when you see me in a DEI meeting, or you see me in a storytelling for work or whatever, when you see me get a little bit more passionate, a little bit more emotional when I speak about my career in games, that fuels a lot of it.
So Lupe, tell us, how did you break into the games industry?
A while back, I needed to change jobs in order to continue my daughter's medical care. And at the time, I had to switch jobs and doctors, and I ended up in the video game industry as a result.
I knew I wanted to work with art and technology, but for the longest time, I thought that like film and animation and VFX were the only occupations that fit both spaces. So I graduated with an animation degree, but struggled with the freelance world after graduation. And after playing Journey for like the 20th time, it clicked that animators were needed in games too. So I went back to school for games, fell in love with production, and was able to score an internship at Relic in Vancouver, but that was really short lived due to getting kicked out of the country because converting student visas to work visas had just changed to exclude private institutions, which my school was. Either way, afterwards, I just applied to everything, more schools and even studios that didn't have production openings in hopes that they'd remember me with when an opening came up. And that's kind of how that worked out in landing my first gig.
Yeah, that's really cool. And now that I hear your answer, I guess in order to kind of make the more of the conversation was I mean, I was always into games, right? So I always played games. It's something that I did personally. My family, my friends, we were all into games. I never actually considered working in games until a day came that I had to switch jobs. I had a lot of experience in like corporate America and larger enterprise business, and then when I had to change jobs in order to continue medical care for my daughter, who has a lot of special needs, I ended up at Midway Games, and that was my first job in the industry. And then went on to work at NetherRealm Studios, and now here I am at Iron Galaxy. This will be the 14th year that I've been the head of IT at a video game company.
Lupe, what advice would you give yourself when you were just starting in the industry?
You know, there's a couple things. The first thing would be I wish I would have gotten into the industry earlier when I was younger. It's something that, like I said, I didn't know was an option. And then when I did, it would just kind of, happen, but it was something that I would have pursued a lot earlier. The industry has been something where I can feel more comfortable in my own skin, right? So it's something that's important to me. But also, uh, I would tell myself to have a bit more confidence. Not having any experience in the game industry is more of a challenge for me to figure out how to influence change, how to have an impact. And like every other job, being someone who's in management, and someone who's a minority, and you find yourself in smaller circles, with other people who maybe aren't like you. And so I think I lacked confidence early on, and I would have told myself to have faith that you can influence change and have an impact at the company a lot earlier than I thought I could. What inspired you to get into games?
Yeah, I think similar to you, when I think of games, I think of family. I think about, parties in like Thea's garages with like a tiny CRTV and a console and Theo's and older primos and everyone, it didn't really matter, what the age group was, like everyone kind of coming together around a TV or a game set. And the same would be true visiting family in Mexico or the Philippines, like with an arcade cabinet. Like games just have such a special way of bringing family and friends and generational gaps together. And I don't know, to me, that's really special. Um, yeah, I think about that, and I think about just how games for education, like, really took off around the time when I was a kid, and I played a lot of games to learn, and the ability to, um, do things at my own pace, to kind of be rewarded, to have fun with games, like, just really helped with, my confidence in school systems. So I think games are just super special when it comes to bringing people together, to help you learn, to kind of see yourself in a different light or put yourself in different shoes, and they just have so much potential in my eyes. Lupe, what is your hidden talent?
I think a lot of people would say that I'm very talented at making a joke at the worst time possible. But my real hidden talent is that I'm a storyteller. So I like to, tell stories, and I've been doing it for a few years all around Chicago, and recently, doing a lot of it virtually. I just went out and did my first story in public outdoors not too long ago, and it was something that I forgot almost how much I really enjoyed. There's something about playing off the crowd live in a show and getting that instant response, whether it's something of emotion or something of laughter. It's something that I'm really into. I really enjoy, and I definitely like taking the opportunity to, like, voice some of my passions and concerns, and letting loose on stage is something that I really look forward to, and I really enjoy. So that's my hidden talent. How about you, Melissa? What's your hidden talent?
I can tell you what my hidden talents aren't. I can't whistle. And I can't wink. Like I can't do any of those things. Um, but I don't know. There's an innate like production sense to me that really likes organizing outside of organizing projects. Like, have you heard of like knolling and flat laying, like that Instagram thing where you can put things together by groups and like take
Hmm.
a photo of them? I just do that all the time. It doesn't matter if it's like my dishwasher or if it's like, books in my bookcase, like without thinking, I just kind of like zone and put things together. And I don't know, it's really relaxing for me. I know we're almost out of time, but I want to ask you, Lupe, why did you pick El Alacran for your nickname?
My family, on both my mom and dad's side, are from the state of Durango in Mexico, and the official, I guess, animal or insect in this case is el alacrán. So whenever you represent Durango, you always say, yeah, puro Durango, puro alacrán. That's who we are, and that's what I represent. How about you? Why are you la espada?
Because I'm gonna cut the trimmings out of your games. I'm gonna make sure that we, are sharp, and I'm just gonna cut the like the crunch time out of it. Cut all the scope creep, and
Nice,
make sure that we are lean and mean as we get these games out the door.
nice, and that, Nate, I vouch for that. That's what you do.
All right. Well, then, thank you everyone for watching, and yeah, we'll see you. Bye.
See it.
And now it's Emily versus Marina.
So, hello, I'm Marina Suarez, and I'm a UI artist. I was born and raised in Spain, northern Spain, and I grew up my entire life with my best friends from Peru and Colombia. And I've been working 6 years in the industry, in the gaming industry.
My name is Emily Farias, and I do programming. And professionally, I've only been doing it since like March. So very fresh still.
What is the mystery behind your wrestling name?
It's just I'm the cat.
I love
That's it. What about you? Is there any story behind yours?
I guess it's just a simple like pun because it's Marina and like that's like the deadly wave. And I grew up in a town that is like it's called the Cantabric shore of northern Spain, and I'm just very attached to the seaside. So it was just like a very bad name pun.
No, nice. Did you know that you always wanted to work in games?
Actually, that's a fun story. I started working as like a traditional painter and sculptor. I never knew if I wanted to be in video games. I just happened to really like video games at the same time I was developing my own like creative side, trying to become a painter or whatnot. And I actually took like a bachelor degree in fine arts in Spain, and eventually they just kind of happen to blend each other, like your passion and like what you do with your what you work, like kind of blended perfectly as a traditional like digital illustration. And so forth, I became like a 3D like generalist for a while, and then that became like a beautiful journey towards like gaming and UI art. How about you?
Definitely did not like I always enjoyed games, but when I was younger, the idea of me developing games or even like, doing programming was just I never thought of it as an option, and I can't say why. I don't know. But when I was 20 about like I got a little late into the game. Like when I was 20, I randomly got a like programming for dummies book from Barnes and Noble and really enjoyed it. So then I went to school for it. And then yeah, I actually it was a meshing too of like I enjoyed doing art and programming. So like when I was in school, I developed a game and it was just like I fell in love with the whole process really. Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel the same in so many regards. Yeah.
If you weren't in your current role, what other job in like the game industry do you think you'd be interested in?
That's a wonderful question because I will probably try to be involved with gaming localization. Because to me, growing up, like localization was a huge part of my gaming experience. Like most of the games will come from US or even Japan, and just the fact that as a kid I got them localized. It was the first thing that even got me into games in the first place. And a lot of people take for granted localization, but it's a very big important part of making sure that your game is getting it's reaching every corner of the world, right?
Right.
And I think voice acting is a huge part of that also. And I just think that they're like careers that need a little more of like exposure or like yeah or like visibility in that regard.
No, that makes absolute sense. Like you want to reach as many people as you can, right?
Exactly.
Make it accessible for everyone. Voice acting would also be fun.
Yes.
I could see you doing voice acting.
So what advice would you give to new developers just starting in the industry?
The main thing I would say is like one, there is space for you, right? Like it can feel really hard being on the outside looking in and like questioning like can I even belong in there, right? And there absolutely is. And there's a million different paths too. Like of course I'm going to promote programming, right? But if that's not your thing, right? There's art, there's sound like you were saying, voice acting, production even if you can like herd people together. Like it's a hard job, but these are all things that are like really necessities. And so it seems like there's something for everyone. I guess another thing too would be don't feel like you have to perfect whatever it is your art is right before jumping in. Like I thought I had to memorize every single textbook before I would be like worthy enough of um trying to get in, and like that's not the case. Like you learn a lot of things through application, and I mean I'm fortunate to work here in a place where like everyone promotes learning. Like the people I work under are like incredibly intelligent. So it's like I don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but I get the opportunity to work with them, and also they actually take the time and have the patience to like teach me things along the way. Like I can't express how like important that is. So also like I think people who are in the industry already, like everyone should strive to be that for these new developers coming in. I know I definitely want to be. Oh yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I would like to add is that Iron Galaxy, I believe that they really like to involve you in every single like in every part of the process, but they actually let you grow. In if you're in a specific discipline and you want to learn more from another discipline, they will be like more than like glad to show you and teach you, and even in some point to shift to that position if you in some point you decide so. So that's something very positive
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
not all the companies let you touch like multidisciplinary like like departments. Sometimes they just wanted to stick to one specific thing, and that's not the way that the gaming should be going. It should let you grow and expand, right?
Yeah,
Expand your knowledge.
exactly. Yeah. It promotes creativity for sure. And yeah, you don't be afraid to like ask questions. This is a good environment.
Yes,
Um, yeah.
exactly.
Do you have any special hidden talents?
I don't know. That's a very good question. I feel like I develop interest for a lot of things, and I have a good sense of curiosity, and I pay attention in little details that may seem overseen or most people oversees. I don't
Mhm.
think it's as much as a talent as a sensibility, but a lot of people point out that I'm that way, and it turns out to be a very positive thing.
No, definitely. Yeah.
How
Uh,
about you? Do you have any hidden talents? And
okay. Well,
which one?
I have been working on this one thing for like a year. So like normally I can't dance, right? And I have like the I guess you could say rhythm of like a potato rolling down a hill. But I've been practicing this and I'll show you. Okay. I don't even know what the name of this dance is called, but I'm trying to perfect it. So I have to start with the arms.
Yo soy gato, yo soy gato.
That's it. That's my
I
hidden
like it.
talent. You're supposed to also move up and down and like rotate the arms, but I haven't gotten that far yet. Oh yeah, that's
I
it.
like it. It's a good hidden talent. I like it.
Yeah, people don't expect it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for watching and see you later.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Here we go. It's Jess versus Gabe.
Hey everybody, my name's Gabe. I'm a producer here at Iron Galaxy, and I've been in the industry for 9 years. Jess, why don't you tell them who you are?
Oh, hello everyone. My name is Jessica Ulloa. I am a visual effects artist here at Iron Galaxy, and I've been doing VFX for a little over 2 years, but this is my first game industry job.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Jess. And why don't you tell us how you got into the industry?
Yeah, sure. So I studied game development at the University of Utah, where I learned how to be a generalist, and I worked on a lot of different aspects of game development. I later took VFX for Games courses from Nomen, which is a VFX games animation school, and that really helped me specialize in VFX. I'd also say that networking and making those connections was very beneficial for me. And yeah, I'll ask you the same. Gabe, how did you break into the industry?
Well, I was young and I didn't know where to go, so I looked up video game studios near my hometown in Jacksonville, Florida, and I found out I was like 2 hours away from UCF, and I was 2 hours away from EA, and then I connected the dots. UCF had a great video game program. Then fast forward, I got my master's degree at UCF for interactive entertainment, and just with a focus in design and production. And then lo and behold, I got an internship as a designer at EA Sports in Orlando, Florida, where I worked as a designer. And
Nice.
It's been magic ever since. So that research I did in high school really worked out. Did you always know you wanted to work in games?
No, music has always been a big part of my life, and for a long time I thought my career would revolve around music. And then a good friend of mine who is in architecture kind of sparked the idea for me to pursue a career in game development. So fast forward a few years, and now we both work in games, and we love it. So Gabe, what does your day-to-day look like?
Oh, as a producer, it can be kind of interesting. So one thing is I have regular check-ins with my team members, just make sure they're all doing the right thing, working on the right stuff, have the information they need to do the job, know who to talk to if they need help. And sometimes it isn't as easy as that. So I help the team figure out what they need to do next. That's why I also manage a really big schedule in the background to make sure it all fits together. And I'm also one of the voices of the team. So I talk to our partner teams at other companies or across our internal departments to make sure we have the work we need or we're satisfying the work they need us to do. And I try to be the glue as best as possible that brings everyone together. What inspired you to get into games?
I've always loved playing video games, and I played a lot with my sister growing up. One of my favorite things about games is being able to build those close relationships with my friends and family as we play together. And I just really love the feeling of building something with a team and feeling proud that we all did it together. What is one wish you have for other Latinx developers in the industry?
I'm glad you asked, because I think it's like not only do we continue to grow in numbers, but continue to build bridges and connect with one another. My parents didn't know this type of job existed until I actually got the job and we celebrated as a family. But that shouldn't be the experience anymore. I think more people should know at a younger age that not only can you work in the video games industry, but you can also do so many things to help out that isn't just coding, designing, or art. There's a place for everybody. And the more we share that information and build communities like this, the stronger that message gets. And then the more of us there are. How do you think your heritage affects your role in games?
I would probably say, like, for me, my family doesn't really know a lot about video games. So it's really interesting when I started working in visual effects and I told my mom that I got this job. She doesn't really totally understand what visual effects is. So it's been really cool to kind of explain that process to her. Like initially she would tell people that I did graphic design, and then so I'd have to kind of like, no, that's not quite it, and explain it to her. So and explain it to other people in my family. So yeah, it's cool to help people understand what other types of roles there are in games. What advice would you give yourself when you were just starting in the industry?
I think the thing I would ask, or thing I remind myself to do, is to ask questions sooner or to speak up sooner, whether it's a problem on the project or something that doesn't feel right to you. Just anything that you can think of, like, don't be afraid to speak up and use your voice. And honestly, even if you don't have the right answer, it's good to know, to have your thoughts heard. And, the sooner people know that you could use some help, the better, and they'll help you out. And that's one of the fastest ways to growing, is admitting to when you need that help.
For sure. I'd say that would be very useful for me to do as well when I was starting off. And yeah, just like reaching out to other people and just like researching what's out there, looking up tutorials and videos and finding all those resources was really helpful for me. How does your heritage affect your role in games?
Well, I think one way I put it to a lot of people is that, like, I'm the quietest person in the loudest family, or I'm the quietest person in a really loud family. And like what that means to me is that I grew up in a really large family, and you really had to be a team player, and you also had to know to speak up, or to work together and to work through any problems and to really help each other out. So I think that's one part of my heritage, is just coming from a large background or a large family, knowing that support is there or can be there if you ask for it. I think has really brought a lot to me and the role I play in games, as terms of being a producer and keeping us all together and making sure every voice is heard, and we try to work through problems as a team. So let me get to, I think, the final question. What is your hidden talent?
Aha! Yeah, so my hidden talent is that I am a fire dancer. I dance with a fire hula hoop, and I've been doing that for about 10 years. And I love the focus it gives me and the sound the fire makes as it spins around me. And that's a very powerful feeling. It's cool.
Oh, that's awesome. I love seeing those at Ren fairs.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, so Gabe, what is your hidden talent?
I feel like I didn't prepare as great as an answer because, and this is the same thing. I think a CEO asked me of like what my hidden talent was or my superpower, and I think everyone had really cool, like, I can visualize the entire game in my head from a design perspective. What I said was, and what's still true today, is I'm really good at like throwing food up in the air and catching it in my mouth. So you see those people like throw popcorn in the air and catch it. I feel like I've really nailed that lately.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yours is way better.
Sorry. It's okay.
Oh,
That's all right. It's not a biggie.
Well, it was nice talking to you, Jessica.
You too,
And
Gabe.
just want to say thank you to the viewers for watching. Just want to say goodbye.
Yes, thank you. Bye, Brittany.
Up next, it's Isaac versus Everardo.
Hello, my name is Isaac Torres. I'm a lead combat designer here at Iron Galaxy Studios. I've been working in the industry for nearly 10 years, and I've been at Iron Galaxy for 8.5 of those years.
And I'm Everardo Acosta. Depending on the project that I am, my role varies from environment lead to art lead. I've been in the industry for 20 years, about 20 years now, and half of that has been with Iron Galaxy.
So tell us the story behind your fighter nickname.
Perro Callejero. Nothing crazy or big behind that, really. My mother's in town from Mexico and been visiting me lately, and she likes, in fact, loves all the old school 80s Mexican movies, and one of them is Perro Callejero. And it so happened that I was watching that, that movie with my mom that evening, and the next day, this opportunity came in and like, hey, do you need a nickname for your your interview or whatnot? So I'm like, hey, yeah, sure, let's do Perro Callejero. What about you, Isaac? What about your nickname?
Yeah, so I've had mine for over 10 years now, I would say. It all comes just from online gaming. My name is Delratch. People in the fighting game community know me as Delratch. But it really started off when I used to play Final Fantasy XI back in the early 2000s. And it just comes from a Magic the Gathering card that I misspelled. So it actually isn't even the proper spelling of that character, but I thought it was always really cool. And yeah, that's basically it. But that's what people have known me for over 10 years now at this point. Evro, tell us a little bit about your educational background.
I'm an artist. My background is artist. Essentially, it's illustration and fine art sort of background, oil paintings, airbrushing. I attended the American Academy of Art here in Chicago for 2 years. Got my associate's degree in illustration. During that time there, the school became accredited and offered a bachelor's program, which I quickly signed myself up for it. That took me another year and a half to complete, and that essentially got me a bachelor's degree in electronic design, which essentially was basics in animation, basics in modeling, and what was called back then desktop publishing, which was learning Illustrator, Photoshop, and Quark Express. I know Quark Express, I'm dating myself, but it's a program we used to use for page layouts or whatnot. Um, yeah, that in a nutshell, that's sort of like my educational background. Again, associate's degree in illustration and a bachelor's degree in electronic design. How does your heritage affect your role in games?
Yeah, so I think to answer that question, I have to kind of explain a little bit about my background in general. So this will be a little personal, but I was raised in a single parent household. My mother, she worked a less than minimum wage job at a plastics factory for 16 years. Uh, for my entire life, I've pretty much lived right next to Humboldt Park. I'm the only person in my immediate family that has either attended or graduated college. My brother is Mexican. My sister is Palestinian. The public schools I went to were overwhelmingly Latinx, ridiculously underfunded schools. I can go across the street right now and there's like a giant Puerto Rican flag right there, right, and some like good ass food. So I think about the experiences that I've gone through personally, and I think about the experiences within my immediate family and within my community, and I think about my role at Iron Galaxy, right? It's like, one, I have a privilege to being able to speak about this sort of stuff right now, but my role as a combat designer, there's tons I can say about that. That's super cool and really fun. But, to me, the part that's most important is making sure that I use my position to improve my community in some sort of way, right? Both inside the company and out. It kind of sucks to say, but like, um, the fight is never over, right? Like, no matter what my role is, there's always some sort of battle. There's always voices that need to be amplified. And I think for pretty much my entire life, I'm going to be doing this. When I was in QA, I fought to make sure that we were respected, to make sure that we were seen as a part of the development team. As a designer, I listen and I think about the things that my team cares about, and I try to do something about it. I legitimately want people to love what they do and to feel like they're crucial to the thing that we're making. In my past, I've worked on political campaigns. I've advocated for things just that are basic human rights for people within my community, and I've talked at schools while at Iron Galaxy to kind of demystify the world of game development a little bit. If it wasn't for my heritage, how I grew up, where I grew up, the people I've met, the people I've learned from, I don't think I'd have that empathy that I have today, and I think that's key to my role in general as a designer. I think empathy is really important, and having pride of who I am and who I try to be, I think is 100% due to my heritage and how I've grown up and the experiences that I've had. And, this is coming from somebody that dresses up as Boricua Spider-Man walking around Humboldt Park just so people can smile. So, if it wasn't for my heritage, I don't think I'd be able to do any of that sort of stuff.
Nice.
Did you always know that you always wanted to work in video games?
Surprisingly enough, no. And thinking back at it, in fact, I grew up playing games. The whole, PlayStation was sort of my first really like console that I owned. I did play like Atari games prior to that, but my first love for games was PlayStation. And despite me loving games, starting with like the PlayStation One, it never dawned upon me that I could do this as a career. Bringing back my educational stuff when I went to art school, it was more like I want to be an illustrator. Somehow I want to be in the arts. But again, never crossed my mind that I could make video games. And even so, like even when I got my bachelor's degree, it was learning how to model, learning how to animate. And again, my initial goal was not games; it was actually to make movies. Um, that has always been sort of what I've been shooting for, and my stay in Chicago was only going to be temporary. Um, at some point after I graduated, I did some freelance contract work, and I actually worked with a small, tiny studio, meaning one person owner. I get contracted to help him build out a shipping port for the Puerto Rican government. Actually, they were trying to pitch an idea. I believe it was to Honda, or I forgot what big car manufacturer, and we were contracted to build out the shipping port, and then they were going to pitch it to this external country, Honda or Toyota, I can't remember whatnot. But I did love just sort of kind of like the creation process and the just building and animating all that stuff out. Having said that, like during that time, I had a friend who started working at Midway Games around 2000, 2001. And at that time, Midway Games was not doing console games. They were strictly arcade games, and they were actively building up to transition over to consoles. So my friend was working there, and he reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, I'm working for this company. They're building up their art department. You don't have to have any 3D or gaming experience or 3D experience. They just want artists who have a good fundamentals and a good background." Again, I looked at it as an opportunity. I thought, oh, it'll be just a stepping stone, something to keep me, put money in my pockets, keep me employed, and make my move to wherever, California or wherever, to work on movies. Lo and behold, I went in there, and honestly, like the first 6 months, I was not a fan. Just I wasn't used to again, working with technical limitations with performance, with texture sizes, and then dealing with programmers as well, and then on top of that, dealing with designers. But now I enjoy working with designers. Isaac, okay. But yeah, so I was, the first 6 months, I was just itching to get out of there. But one thing led to another. The projects that the first project I worked on was a baseball game, Slugfest, which was one of the funnest games that I worked on, just because you ended up actively playing with your teammates and programmers and designers. But yeah, lo and behold, 20 years later, I'm still in video games, and the whole working in movies just faded off in the distance. It's not that I never tried; it's just that I grew to love working on games and excelled at it. And yeah, yeah, I just grew to love it. And again, initially it never crossed my mind that this could be a 20-year career, and I'm still in it. So who knows when I'm going to stop. What advice would you give yourself when you were just starting out in the industry?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting, how you were talking about how you didn't even know you wanted to get into games. I didn't either. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I have a minor in sociology. I never imagined that I would ever work on video games ever. Um, and my advice isn't so much to myself, I guess, as it is to hopefully anybody that can take anything away from what I'm talking about. But it's to kind of just never underestimate yourself, right? It's like, just because you may not have the background or the education for this specific industry, that doesn't mean that your experiences are not valid or that you can't learn. It kind of sounds silly to say, but it's really true. It's like every bit counts, right? It's like that video game club that you maybe had in high school. Yeah, that's super cool, right? It's like, did you write about video games or create content? That's also very valid, right? It's like, do you play games competitively, right? I played games at a competitive level, or at least tried. My competitiveness is questionable depending on who you ask, but we should talk about that, right? It's like, it may not seem like it, but being able to play something even at a competitive level sets you it's a very specialized skill, right? And that shows that you kind of think about things differently than others, and you shouldn't be ashamed of the things that you enjoy just because it's something that isn't in a degree, or something that isn't in a professional setting or anything like that, right? It's like, even if it's for fun, you can still incorporate that experience into your normal everyday life. And I've done it, and I continue to do it even now. And I would say to anybody that maybe is just getting into the industry or wants to get into the industry, never sell yourself short. The experiences you have are super crucial to who you are, and you should be proud of that. And when you're getting interviewed, that sort of stuff shines, and that is a difference maker between you and someone else, right? It's like those personal experiences, that passion, that experience that you have is very unique to you, and you should be proud of that. All right. So, going back to you, Evero, this is kind of a more lighter conversation, but what's your hidden talent?
Yeah. Probably my least favorite questions out of all of these. Isaac, you know me, I'm very sort of reserved, stoic, or serious or whatnot. So yeah, my hidden talent, right? Actually, there's two. Well, I'll just focus on one. A lot of people don't know, or may know, or I don't know, that I actually like to dance. In fact, I love to dance. I don't do it as often as I'd like, but I'm a good dancer. It's hard for me to admit, but yes, I'm a good dancer. Salsa, merengue, cha-cha-cha, ballroom dancing, swing, some waltz, some foxtrot, and so I like to dance. I like to try different styles or whatnot, and yeah. What about you, Isaac? What is your hidden talents?
It's definitely not anything as cool as that. I had no idea. That's really interesting. Yeah, this was the question I was kind of dreading the most because I didn't really have an answer for it. But um, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that's super hidden. I can play musical instruments. During quarantine, I picked up the glockenspiel, so I've been playing that. I like a lot of percussion-y type things. I used to play in a band for steel drum back in high school, and that led up into my first year of college. And I played at like Bulls games, and I played for the mayor. I played. At Chicago has like a little winter wonderland type thing, and I've played at that as well, and that's always been really cool. I've always loved music, and I may not do anything professionally with music right now, but I'm constantly thinking about it. There's always stuff that's running in my head that is very music oriented, and I don't think that part of my life is ever going to go away. I guess that concludes this conversation. Evero, I had a wonderful time talking with you. I actually learned quite a bit. It's very interesting hearing what you had to say.
We got to do this more often.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you all for watching, and yeah, see you later.
Bye.
Two brothers enter, one leaves. It's Daniel Diaz versus Jesus Diaz.
Hello everyone, mi nombre es Jesús y soy Environment Artist. Llevo 10 años trabajando como profesional. Me encargo de crear todo lo relacionado con los escenarios, desde pequeños modelos 3D, como podría ser una ventana o una puerta, a piezas modulares para crear edificios, montañas, terrenos. Y también me encargo de crear las colisiones con las que el jugador chocará cuando está jugando. Y bueno, comencé haciendo esto desde el año 1999 de forma no profesional, como un pasatiempo, y de forma profesional llevo desde el año 2012.
Me llamo Daniel Díaz, soy Environment Artist y llevo 20 años, de los cuales 10 como profesional. Y básicamente hago lo mismo que mi hermano.
Muy bien. Tell us the story behind your fighter nickname.
Bueno, pues he escogido el lince ibérico porque es un animal que me gusta mucho y en España está en peligro de extinción. Es como una forma de apoyar este fantástico animal.
Pues mi nickname proviene de la película Drive, cuyo protagonista es Ryan Gosling. Y este antihéroe, por así decirlo, llevaba una chaqueta con un escorpión en la espalda y hacía especial alusión a que te atacara en cualquier momento. Y nada, me gustó bastante la película y de ahí el apodo.
Jesús, how did you break into the industry?
Pues empezó en el año 1999 cuando mi madre nos compró el juego Unreal y al poco tiempo de jugar a este juego descubrimos que incluía un editor de niveles para hacer mapas y lo cual nos enganchó bastante más crear los niveles que jugar al juego en sí. Entonces, durante bastante tiempo estuvimos como hobby creando estos niveles y hasta que formamos parte de una comunidad de mappers de aquella época llamada Community Bonus Pack, en la cual hicimos muy buenos contactos. Recuerdo que uno de ellos fue Ben Burkhardt, el cual nos dijo que su empresa estaba buscando diseñadores de niveles y nada, poco tiempo después, porque nosotros estábamos estudiando en la universidad, pues decidimos presentarnos a esa oferta y Daniel, mi hermano, ganó un concurso que estaban haciendo esa misma empresa y gracias a eso y a una serie de test 3D que nos hicieron, pues conseguimos el puesto.
Bueno, mi historia es bastante similar a la que acaba de contar mi hermano, pero básicamente fue un poco casualidad. Yo acababa de dejar mi trabajo como ingeniero en 2012 y me había operado la muñeca derecha por una larga lesión que tuve, que me tenía bastante limitado. Y nada, durante el posoperatorio entré a unos foros que solía visitar hace muchos años, como ha contado mi hermano. Era un grupo privado de makers de Unreal Tournament 2004, conocido como el Community Bonus Pack, donde habíamos participado bastante, habíamos ganado premios y la mayoría de los creadores de ese grupo ahora son bastante famosos. Son gente como Fernandez, Haley Ogin, Nick Donaldson, Ben Booker, como ha comentado mi hermano, y nada, entonces al verme de vuelta en los foros, Ben Booker, que es el actual senior level designer de Studio Wicker, me avisó de que Trendy estaba buscando a level designer. Entonces yo me interesé inmediatamente porque la verdad que me di cuenta de que mi pasión real eran los videojuegos. Además, en ese momento también Trendy estaba organizando un concurso de mapas, con lo cual decidí presentarme al concurso. No sé cómo lo gané, porque tenía la muñeca fatal de la operación y conseguí ganar el primer premio y después de pasar varios test, pues ya fui contratado con Trendy junto a mi hermano. Por lo que tanto Ben como Trendy fueron la clave para que yo entrase en la industria. What inspired you to get into games, Jesús?
Pues desde pequeño siempre me gustó construir cosas. Comencé muy pequeño construyendo pequeños edificios, castillos. Sobre todo usaba las piezas de Lego, los Playmobil, Kennex también. Y más tarde descubrí el editor de niveles de Unreal, y lo cual me apasionó bastante más. Entonces, pues me divertía mucho construyendo estos escenarios. Y nada, entonces desde entonces pensé que de mayor quería convertirme en diseñador de niveles y vivir de ello.
De pequeño me compraba muchísimas revistas de videojuegos, estaba siempre muy al día de todos los juegos que salían por aquel entonces y soñaba siempre con el hecho de poder crear un videojuego. Entonces, un día leí un reportaje allá por el año 1998 de que a través del programa Unreal Editor podías construir tus propios escenarios 3D. Entonces, pues nada, compramos el juego, empecé a diseñar escenarios con 14, 15 años y se convirtió en mi hobby favorito. Yo creo que esa fue la clave, el descubrir el Unreal Editor. Y me acuerdo que llegaba de la universidad, del instituto también, y me ponía a hacer mapas. En vez de estudiar, me ponía a hacer mapas. Entonces, aún recuerdo mi primer nivel, que era como una esfera gigante llena de lava, de la que era imposible escapar.
What is your hidden talent?
Dice que se me da muy bien jugar al fútbol y mi posición favorita es extremo derecho o delantero.
Pues otra de las cosas que siempre me ha apasionado mucho es la programación. Con 17 años programé varios jueguecillos muy simples y la verdad es que me gustaba tanto más que el diseño de escenarios 3D. Más tarde, cuando estudié en la universidad, pues aprendí a programar en C++. Y la verdad es que si no estuviese trabajando ahora mismo de diseñador de escenario, estaría de programador.
Okay, I think this is all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah, that's
watching.
all. Thank you for watching.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
Last but not least, we've got Erica versus Keenan.
Hi, I'm Erica Fernandez. I'm a UI designer at Iron Galaxy Studio. I've been a UI designer for only about a year and a half, but for about 3 years prior to Iron Galaxy, I was a QA analyst. So now I do a lot of user interface buttons. So basically all your menus, all your HUDs, I have a hand in making all of those really fun things. And yeah, that's my story for that. Keenan, how about you?
Hola, me llamo Keenan, 45 Morales. I am the community manager at Iron Galaxy. I'm actually brand new to the industry. Just started working in the industry in March, but previously worked at GameStop, worked at a little place called Ignite Gaming Lounge in Chicago area, and I've been brand new to the industry, but in trying to break into the industry for the past couple of years. So very happy to be here. Tell us the story behind your fighter name.
Gatito Ninja. Yeah, so my gamer tag is pretty similar to that. I'm a huge cat lover. My cat's name is Link, which I'm sure you all can tell. I'm a big Legend of Zelda fan. And yeah, and ninjas are cool, and I've always liked ninjas because who doesn't like ninjas? So yeah, that's where mine come from. Where does yours 45 come from?
Boom. So my handle, Keyman45, just pick the numbers away from there. My affinity to those numbers is was a huge Michael Jordan basketball fan when I was a kid. And if you're unaware, his numbers separate from the famous 23 have also been 45. So it's kind of like a little nod to my history of, Keenan, hey, you may not be 23, but you could still also be as cool as 45. So sweet. Yeah. How does your heritage affect your role in games, Erica?
So I come from a mixed heritage household. So growing up, I had a lot of different points of views and a lot of different types of cultures. So as a UI designer, I often have to take in UX as well, which is user experience. So I often have to think of when players are looking at things, how are they interpreting them? Does this make sense? Am I easily communicating what I want these things to show actually be readable? So I've always had to kind of think outside of the box and try to find creative ways to communicate, which has really helped in my design, I feel. Did you always know you wanted to work in games?
I did not. First, I didn't really think it was possible. I just saw it as this like, oh, you need to be a coder or you need to be a super brilliant artist. And I don't have either of those skills at this time, but I recognize, there's other avenues into the industry. Watched a bunch of YouTube clips, read a bunch of stuff online, started making my own community, and recognize that if I wanted to try different routes separate from those two avenues that I previously misunderstood, that there's other ways in. So once I recognize, hey, I want to break into the industry, I've loved games my entire life. Once I recognized that this is something I wanted to pursue, I put my mind to it. I had the support of my friends and family, luckily, and it took a little bit of a trip to get where I'm at today. But I'm very thankful that I took the trip because now I'm in the happiest place I could ever be. What advice would you give yourself when you were just starting in the industry?
So I had a bit of an interesting start in the industry because I wasn't always a designer. I did go to school for gaming. I have a bachelor's degree in it, but I actually started in QA because it was really hard to kind of get that foot in the door. So my advice to myself is just to keep trying and keep practicing. You learn a lot in school, but you learn the most when you are actively designing and actively doing things. So that was the biggest thing, was just to keep going at it and don't give up because it's very difficult. It's really hard to get into this, but I was really fortunate to get to where I am now and just a bunch of things. So yeah.
I think that's often a story you hear for like a lot of folks first time breaking into the industry. It's like it was a grind, but it was always so well worth it.
So well worth it. And I worked at GameStop too when I was in college. I think that's something a lot of us have in common. And I also worked in like gaming media. So I wrote articles for gaming websites and got to go to E3. And that was a really cool way to kind of get my foot in the door too. But becoming a QA analyst was leaps and bounds different to that. What is your educational background, Keenan?
So I went to the University of Illinois at Chicago, also known as UIC. Shout out to my other IG folks that also went to UIC. I studied communications there, and little did I know that I would end up being in a communications department in the video game industry. I remember when I was trying to decide on what major or what I wanted to study, it was literally like, all right, I need to pick something. I don't know what I want to do, and I hadn't, figured out that breaking into the industry was like a potential route that I could go down. And my school counselor was like, all right, you got to pick. You're starting like in a couple weeks. And I was like, okay, I guess this one, communications, because I was like, that makes sense. I think I can apply that to like anything. And then little did I know, again, like that was actually going to help me in a way that I wouldn't even understand down the line in the future. So very thankful that I ended up going that route. Another takeaway that I would say from my, I guess, professional background of experiences, I'm also a professional dancer, and I can't underline how important it was for me to just, I guess, interact with communities of people, and specifically like a diverse set of people within the dance community. I've met so many different kinds of people that have just melded my mind into the being I am today, and I'm so thankful that whether it's through artistic interaction or just conversation, I can learn from different people. So very thankful of people that have taught me the things that I know today.
Yeah, I've done some dance as well. I've done lessons for salsa and bachata. I've actually performed for Hispanic Heritage Month before in the past as well with my father. So I totally get that sense of community for communications and stuff. That's really cool too.
What is your hidden talent, Erica?
So I have a couple of hidden talents. It's really hard to pick one. One of them is that to speak about music, is that I grew up in a very musical household. So I was a huge band geek growing up. I think I can play roughly a half dozen instruments, but one of my favorites was the sousaphone. So I was in marching band in high school. So I played the sousaphone, which is a giant tuba, and the instrument is bigger than me. So if it was particularly windy, I would be blown about the field. It was quite funny. So yeah, that's my little hidden talent. Is that
I hope there's secret videos of that. You just like
there might be, honestly. You just stand there in a giant gust of winds and you just see these bells just tilt back and you just fix the footing.
It's funny.
So yeah. What is your hidden talent?
So not so hidden anymore because I leaked it in the last question, but I'm a dancer. I would say in the traditional sense of what my style has emerged from, I guess you could say hip hop, the actual title of the dance style that I actually partake in. It's hard to define, but if you've ever watched the shows World of Dance or America's Best Dance Crew, that's the kind of dance that I aim to perform. I've been a choreographer, teacher, director for like the past 10 years in the Chicago dance community. And I would say like I personally excel in like isolations and popping and waving a little bit. Yeah, that's a little sneak peek of who I am. I previously have competed a lot. I placed with a crew called the Go Top 8 at a place called, or at a competition called Hip Hop International. I've competed at World of Dances all across the nation with a couple different crews, Coda and the Puzzle League, and another group called Second Wind that I made that was my own. So very cool to be in the competition scene. It's something that teaches you a lot.
Way more than what I've done in my little bit of dabbling in dance, but that's super cool.
Cool. Well, thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of the interviews or wherever we're at in the lineup. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. We'll let you go. Bye.